You're listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
Happy Monday, everybody. I might be just a little, like a half a minute ahead of schedule, according to my supervisor.
That's right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be back live.
But that's okay. You're hearing it. We're hearing it. We're here. We'll do our thing. I want to remind you that by the end of the year, we're not going to be able to be live, so we'll figure something out. We'll still do the podcast. There'll just be other alternatives probably available with that as well. If you're new here, we appreciate you joining us. And be sure to check out givegod90.com. Look for the books. Can't buy them there. You're going to have to get them from somewhere else, preferably a local bookstore. Support your local businesses and all that good stuff. And did I get all the advertisements in?
Yes. Thumbs ups, shares.
Oh, yeah.
Feel free to ring the bells. Anything to bring us up in.
It helps the analytics.
All the algorithms.
And, makes it easier for people to find us that way. The other day we did a podcast about science. I'm going to keep doing that today because, well, you'll see. and I want to say that in the last 50 years or so, the policies of the United States have really influenced the rest of the world. So even if you don't live in the United States, chances are you will be affected by what I'm going to talk about. Okay? And I want to start by saying that atheists, the secular people, would have you believe that our universe that we live in was caused in a deep, dark vacuum when nothing exploded, and in some way that caused the beginning of what we call the universe and even life itself. Well, I have figured out a way to test that. Okay, and this is a pretty easy test. For that test, you're going to need 2 containers and a vacuum pump and a freezer. That's all you need. And we can test the Big Bang Theory. Are you ready? In one container, we're going to pull a vacuum and we're going to seal it. And you're going to say, well, there's not going to be anything in it. No air, no nothing. And that's absolutely right. And then you're going to put that in a dark freezer. And what that's going to simulate is the vacuum and the darkness of space. It's as close as we can come to replicate it. But it's a good test. 14 billion years is a long time, right? In fact, we really don't have any way to measure or make it relative to anything because it's just a huge number. But we're going to simulate putting that empty container in a dark freezer, and it's going to represent the vacuum, darkness, coldness, where nothing exploded 14 billion years ago. Just keep that in mind. Now, in the other container, we're going to leave it open. We're going to put it out in the sun. The air and the light, we're going to assume, I know that's kind of dangerous, but we're going to assume that is going to simulate or replicate the spirit of our Creator and His light. And now we're going to wait. Which of these two containers do you think will offer the first evidence of water? Just curious. Water is the most common compound in the known universe. It's made up of two atoms of hydrogen, one atom of oxygen. That's where we get the H2O from. And here's where I need to remind you of something. Man has actually tried to make water by introducing hydrogen and oxygen in a vacuum. Simply putting these two elements in the same area, in the same thing. They draw out everything from a container. They put in hydrogen, they put in oxygen, and nothing happens. You cannot just simply put hydrogen and oxygen in the same container and expect to make water. You need a catalyst. You need a spark. And you can't do that in a vacuum. Or we haven't figured out how yet. So how long are we going to have to wait for the container that's in the freezer to make even one small molecule of water? Is it ever going to happen? Now, I've said before, and I'm going to say this again, I am not anti-science. I really like science. Science is one of those things that fascinate me for some reason. But real science includes our Creator's design. And I am extremely critical of any science that excludes the Creator. Now, that being said, I had something come across my mailbox last week. And I ignored it because I thought, nobody in their right mind is going to believe this. Nobody in their right mind is ever going to say, oh, this is really good, right? It's just one of those things that can't happen. But then I began to see this pop up on social media. So I thought, okay, people are believing this. This is from Science Daily, January 22nd, 2024. Let me read part of the article, and I quote, "Food from urban agriculture has a footprint 6 times larger than conventional produce, study shows. However, a few city-grown crops equaled or outperformed conventional agriculture under certain conditions. Tomatoes grown in the soil of open-air urban plots had a lower carbon intensity than tomatoes grown in conventional greenhouses, while the emissions difference between conventional and urban agriculture vanished for air-freighted crops like asparagus. On average, food produced through urban agriculture emitted 0.42 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalents per serving, 6 times higher than the 0.07 kilograms of CO2 per serving of conventionally grown produce." Now, this is a study done by Jason Hawes. He's a doctoral student at UM, I believe that's University of Michigan School for Environmental Sustainability. It goes on to claim that people living in urban areas shouldn't grow their own food because it's bad for the planet. And that's really why I disregarded this. and I'm going to be very blunt here. How stupid can people be? All right. That's as blunt as I can put it. They are attempting to set the precedent that you shouldn't grow your own food, while making the argument that crops shipped by ship or air have a lower carbon footprint than crops that you grow in your backyard. It doesn't make any sense to me. The whole article is based on attempting to compare apples and aardvarks. You know, that you can't compare the two. You know me. I went to Science Daily and I started digging around. Now, in October of 2019, they had another article. And the title is Urban Home Gardens Could Help Curb Food Insecurity and Health Problems. Let me quote something from this article. Researchers from the University of California at San Francisco partnered with Valley Verde, a community-based urban garden organization in Santa Clara County, California, to better understand participants' perceptions of the health benefits and acceptability of urban home gardening programs. Interest in such programs has been on the rise, and this is a critical next step for beginning large-scale trials of how effective they are. This home-based model can play a vital role in urban agriculture and has the potential to directly impact health by tying the garden to the household. The lead author, Kartika Pilar, PhD, Department of Medicine, University of California, San Francisco, added that home and community gardens are complementary approaches to urban agriculture, together promoting a more resilient local food system. Local food system. My emphasis added there. Urban agriculture is an important community resource that may contribute not only to nutrition and health, but also to urban development and social connection, said Dr. Sherry Weiser, MD, the senior author of the study. She added that combining urban home gardening with nutrition education is an innovative strategy, can't talk this morning, to help reduce the burden of preventable disease such as diabetes in low-income populations with limited access to healthy food. So here's my question. Which of these two articles, which of these researchers actually include the creator's design in their research? One is looking for a carbon footprint, produce CO2, what they now call a greenhouse gas, something we exhale with every breath. The other is looking for the benefits of healthy eating. Think about that. One is looking for something that we exhale, something that our body doesn't need a lot of. We breathe it out. The other is looking for something healthy to put into our bodies. Which of those experiments and researchers were actually using our creator's design? That's for you to answer. But we're going to look at some verses here that might help answer that question.
God blessed them and said to them, Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, and every creature that crawls upon the earth. Then God said, Behold, I have given you every seed-bearing plant on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit contains seed. They will be yours for food. Genesis chapter 1, verse 28 and 29. The fear and dread of you will fall on every living creature on the earth, every bird of the air, every creature that crawls on the ground, and all the fish of the sea. They are delivered into your hand. Everything that lives and moves will be food for you. Just as I gave you the green plants, I now give you all things. But you must not eat meat with its lifeblood still in it. Genesis chapter 9, verses 2 through 3 and 4. Along both banks of the river, fruit trees of all kinds will grow. Their leaves will not wither, their fruit will not fail. Each month they will bear fruit, because the water from the sanctuary flows to them. Their fruit will be used for food, and their leaves for healing. Ezekiel 47, verse 12. Then the angel showed me a river of the water of life, as clear as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb down the middle of the main street of the city. On either side of the river stood a tree of life, bearing 12 kinds of fruit and yielding a fresh crop for each month. And the leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nations. Revelations 22, verse 1 and 2.
You see, our Creator designs creation to sustain mankind. He gives us the air we breathe, the plants to absorb the CO2 and produce oxygen through photosynthesis. He provides food first in the form of vegetation, later in meat. And I need to address this here. I've heard a lot of people say that you should only eat plants because God gave us the plants first. Well, you see, the problem is sin. And that resulted in the curse of the earth. Now, there are plants that if we eat them, they are poison. Now, some of these things we can use for medications. Some of these things we can use for various other things. So, you can't have, I should say it this way. Not every plant today is for food, right? Not all meat is for food. Do you realize there's a thing called protein poisoning? If you ate only a diet of rabbit meat, it would result in protein poisoning. You can't sustain yourself eating nothing but rabbit meat. We are, by our Creator's design and His provision, given everything we need to live a long, healthy, productive, successful life when we follow His instructions, when we live the way He designed us to live. The problem is, or has become, modern science, because the majority of it chooses to exclude the Creator from their work. They choose instead to experiment on the premise that mankind knows more than our Creator. You see, we have attempted to elevate ourselves not only to be equal with God, we want to replace Him. And you know what? There's a pretty good example of what happens when you attempt to do that. Go ahead and read that passage.
How you have fallen from heaven, O day star, son of the dawn. You have been cut down to the ground, O destroyer of nations. You said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit on the mount of assembly in the far reaches of the north. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you will be brought down to Sheol, to the lowest depths of the pit. Those who see you will stare. They will ponder your fate. Is this the man who shook the earth and made the kingdoms tremble? Who turned the world into a desert and destroyed its cities? Who refuses to let the captives return to their homes? Isaiah 14:12-17.
Oh, by the way, if you've tried that experiment, is anything happening in the freezer yet? Just asking. The container in the sun, you may notice something happening. Depending on the temperatures, humidity, you may see some condensation in there. That's a whole lot of little molecules of water. Just saying. The one we call Satan, the devil, Hasatan, the enemy, whatever, however you want to describe him, has said, I am going to ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit on the mountain of the assembly. I will make myself like the Most High. But he's going to wind up in the place of the dead. Nimrod thought he could get into heaven his way. Didn't work. Mankind does not have the ability and will never have the ability to outcreate our Creator. It doesn't matter how much science, it doesn't matter how much ingenuity, doesn't matter how hard we try, we can never outcreate our Creator. Without the Spirit of the Almighty, without His light, creation and life do not exist. Without His word to guide us and direct us, mankind will fail. Much like Satan. Did you see what it said? Is this the one who shook the earth? Is this the one who made the kingdoms tremble? And the next part of that should terrify you. Who turned the world into a desert and destroyed its cities. Is that what mankind's trying to do? Because that will be the result. When you hear the term follow the science, and that became very popular a couple of years ago, you have to ask, you have to be critical. Which science? The one that includes our Creator's design, or the one that excludes our Creator altogether? We really do need to be more critical when we hear these things. And quite honestly, we need to hold those so-called self-proclaimed experts accountable for their actions and their experiments. If you attempt to say this is science and it has no benefit to mankind, it's not science. When you exclude the Almighty from anything you do, it's not science. It's not real science. It's science fiction. I think I said the other day, artificial intelligence, it's become this big thing. But it's exactly what it is. It's artificial. All we can do is program a computer, program a machine. That machine isn't living. It doesn't think. It doesn't have emotion. It doesn't have the breath of God. It doesn't have a soul. It's artificial. It can't do anything outside of its parameters that is in its program. You know, you can teach it to, well, I shouldn't say teach, you can program it to go look for information and even put that information into a readable sentence. But what you can't do, what you'll never be able to do, is ask it what it thinks of it. Our Creator has provided us everything we need without the need for synthetically attempting to produce food or most medicine. What comes out of a laboratory might not always be the best thing for you. You know, what we've experienced over the last couple of 100 years is that nothing mankind can do, nothing. We just simply cannot replace what our Creator has already done. We can't improve on perfection. All we can do is destroy it. When Genesis 1:29, I think, says, he looked on his creation, and it was very good. Now, man comes along, and in our own way, when we failed to do the things he asked, what happens? Mankind caused, sin caused the cursed earth, the broken world we live in. And we think we can fix it? Not going to happen. The only thing that's going to fix it has already been told to us a long time ago. Isaiah repeats what he was told. I will make a new heaven and a new earth. We can look forward to it. Don't want to rush it because there's a lot more worse stuff we have to go through. But think about that. How can the created outcreate the Creator? Can't happen. We can't build a machine that can actually think. We can only build a machine that does what it's told to do. Only the Almighty can put something together with the capacity, because we are made in His image, to think, to have emotions, to be able to communicate the way we do. You have been given this life, this opportunity, not to benefit so much yourself, but to benefit the people around you, so that they, in turn, living the same way, can benefit you. That is His system, not ours, because our system is, what's in it for me? Our system says it's me first. Well, you know what? Our Creator kind of has that same concept, right? He says, put me first, and I'll take care of you. Maybe we should remember that. Maybe these scientists, and I use that term very loosely, would be better scientists if they'd actually put the Creator first. You know, these secular scientists really do give science a bad name, because real science includes the Almighty and His design. Real science is learning, because the more you learn, the more questions you're going to ask. Well, how'd that happen? Why did that happen? And it doesn't, real science looks for real answers. Real science doesn't say, well, 14 billion years ago, nothing exploded and created everything. Real science doesn't say, well, 14 billion years ago, in the vacuum and darkness of space, nothing exploded. By the way, if you're doing that experiment, check on the one in your freezer. See if anything's there yet. I'm not going to wait for you because it's going to be a very, very long time before anything happens in that little vacuum. And I doubt that it ever will. You want to test real science? Include your Creator. See what happens. See what benefits mankind, not what tears it down. So, until Thursday.
Until Thursday.
We wish you many, many
blessings,
everyone. And keep checking on that experiment.